Hello, welcome back. We come now to philosophical religion. So we've talked about practical aspects of religion, devotional aspects of religion, the main concepts of Hinduism. Now we get to the philosophical level. Remember, practical and psychological are where most people live religion, but philosophical is a deeper level and answering objections and meeting challenges. India is rich with philosophy. If you love philosophy, I'm going to show you where you could read more about this. Now, I'm going to go through this quickly because some of this is a little bit deeper than I want to go in this class. But if you take a Hinduism class at the university, you will go into this in more depth. So I'll show you where you can learn more. But for now, I want to tell you about these orthodox systems of philosophical Hinduism. There are 6 systems and they fit into 3 categories. So these are different philosophies, but they go together. So jnana and Vaisheshika systems are pluralistic. They think that there are many things, and the emphasis is on logical difference. In these systems, there is an emphasis on logic and discriminating and distinguishing one thing from another. Jnana, logic, may be the best method, and Vaisheshika is the product, the systems that come out of it. And the emphasis is on pluralism. So I'm going to show you where you could read more about this on Wikipedia. I just put in Hindu philosophy in Wikipedia, and I went down to Astika. This is where you can see more about these schools of thought. So Jnana, or logic, is the school of epistemology which explores sources of knowledge. So you can see they're doing, how do we know? Vaisheshika is an empiricist school of atomism, and these two go together. All right, going back to the handout, let's talk about the next system, and that's going to be Samkhya and Yoga. Samkhya Yoga is dualism. There are 2 kinds of reality, body and soul. There are 2 external categories of being, Prakriti, which is matter, and Purusha, which is self. And you know about Purusha, that God that was cut up and made into this world. Here's a quote about this philosophy. Individual selves are not the product of an eternal self, but are regarded as eternal, independent, and infinite. So our selves are real and they are eternal, and they're going through this process of reincarnation. The self needs to be liberated from its association with matter. So matter is holding you down. Your soul needs to be liberated. This is similar to what the dualists in Greece thought. Yoga is the practice that allows for the discipline of the body in order for the mind to transcend it. Again, you can read about these here. Samkhya is an atheistic and strongly dualist theoretical expression of consciousness and matter, mind and matter. Yoga is a school which emerged from Samkhya and emphasis is on practical use of Sankhya theory. So from here, this school's focus is on meditation, contemplation, and liberation from reincarnation. All right, and then the third category that we're going to look at is Purva Mimamsa and Vedanta. And then these are philosophers, Shankara, Ramanuja, and Madhva. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about each of them. But first, let's talk about Vedanta. And the emphasis is on right action for Purva Mimamsa and Vedic teachings. All of these philosophies go back to the Vedas. Purva Mimamsa is the least philosophical and is based on the literal inspiration and teaching of the Vedas. The Vedas are uncreated and eternal. They're written in the language of being itself. Remember, I told you the sages heard the Vedas because they were in touch with being. They were listening to being. The Vedas prescribe the whole duty of a person. Okay, so that's the Purva Mimamsa side. The Vedanta is Anta is end, Veda, the Vedas. So this is a teaching that comes from the end of the Vedas or the Upanishads. Vedanta philosophy is based on the teachings at the end of the Vedas, the Upanishad texts, and there are 3 schools of Vedanta philosophy, and I'm going to tell you about all 3. Shankara is a philosopher who teaches Advaita Vedanta, which is the most popular philosophy today. Advaita Vedanta is called absolute non-dualism. Absolutely not two things. There's only one thing. Absolutely. Shankara teaches all is one. There's not two things. And the philosophy is Advaita Vedanta. And it's one without any parts. This world is an illusion. He's writing around 800 Common Era. And this is an impersonal view of reality, or Nirguna Brahman, probably picked up through the Indus Valley influence. So the gods in Shankara's teaching, the gods aren't real either. The whole of reality is an illusion. Shankara is the god that helps you dispel the illusion. So Shankara gets associated Shiva gets associated with Shankara. Shiva the god gets associated with Shankara's philosophy, or Advaita Vedanta. Okay, I'm going to pause and go to the Wikipedia page again and show you. Now, if you were to click on Vedanta here, it'll give you more detail. There are differences between our handout and what is listed here. You could read more about Vedanta philosophy if you want to, but I want to show you a little chart that shows our philosophers. So we are talking about, so here's Samkhya, Yoga, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Purva Mimamsa. We're not going to talk about that, but it's a dualistic philosophy. Advaita Vedanta is where I am. Now, this is taught by Shankara. Where are the philosophers? Where's Shankara? No, they don't list him. I guess you can get more philosophers here by clicking. But this one, Vishishtadvaita Vedanta. We're calling this Dvaita Vedanta on our handout, and Dvaita Vedanta here is a dualism that goes with Madhva. So it's a little bit different here, but you can read about these different philosophies. You can click on these and get more, but I'm going to summarize the other ones for you. So we just talked about Shankara, which is Advaita Vedanta. Ramanuja is, according to that one, the V word I just said, according to ours, we're going to call him Dvaita Vedanta. Advaita is not two. Dvaita is maybe not two. So this is a qualified non-dualism, Ramanuja's philosophy. He's saying all is one, but the one is parts. There's one with parts. So the universe is the one. The universe is an aspect of the body of Vishnu. So Vishnu projects himself as the many, but it is one. So the many different manifestations of being are a reflection of the being of Vishnu, but they're not literally physical, real. Okay, so we're all part of the one. It's pantheism. Remember pantheism? God is all and all is God. The world is real as part of God. The parts are different, but they're still one. And Ramanuja writes his philosophy around 1100 AD. Now, here's an interesting backstory. Ramanuja's father was a priest in the temple devoted to Vishnu. Ramanuja had a personal relationship with Vishnu, and he thought Shankara's interpretation of the Vedas was wrong. So Shankara and Ramanuja both read the end of the Vedas, the Upanishads, and interpret it differently. Ramanuja's trying to correct an error he sees in Shankara. So Ramanuja's view is personal, Saguna Brahman, and it's associated with Vishnu. Shiva, Shankara, Vishnu, Ramanuja. This is a philosophical expression of that view of reality. So Ramanuja is trying to preserve a personal reality there. Okay, now the third philosopher mentioned here is Madhva, And Madhva was reading the same text as these two philosophers, and he thinks they both got it wrong. Where they interpret things as Atman is Brahman, the self is the highest reality, Madhva sees Anatman is Brahman. The self is not highest reality. Madhva says there are two kinds of things, and they're both personal, God and humans. And the individual self is real. It is me, and it's not to be identified with God like Ramanuja and Shankara do. Myself is God. Madhva is saying, no, that's a mistake. He is going to say ultimate reality, or the ultimate reality is God and is Vishnu. And this is a dualistic or pluralistic view of reality rather than a monistic. Okay, so there are different philosophies in Hinduism based on their different interpretations of the Upanishads, the end of the Vedas, and what it means. So, I think I'm not going to load you down with more philosophy, but I do want you to be able to tell me what are the different systems in philosophy, and you could just tell me Jnana and Vaisheshika, what I said, or what was on this page here when they were listed out. Now this is a harder part. I know this section was pretty, I don't know, difficult. It's difficult for me too. I had to study Hinduism for a while to get my head around this idea that the world is unreal. It's an illusion. So it's understandable if you're struggling. But what we're going to do now, let me go back to the handout. I'm going to keep this page up because I see here that there are some other philosophies that are external challenges that we're going to talk about. So let me go back to our handout. And let's talk about some internal and external challenges to Hinduism. And we have different religions. Now, we don't get to talk about Jainism much, but I can tell you what happens. So Jainism and Buddhism are going to be the internal challenges to Hinduism. Islam and the West are going to be external challenges to Hinduism. So Jainism is a religion that is started by Mahavira, who's the founder of this religion, around 540. No, his date, he dies around 463. So between 540 and 463, he begins this religion. And what happens is he is a kshatriya in the Hindu system. And he had some questions about that system. Jainism as a religion rejects the Vedas. So no, it's not Vedantic. It accepts reincarnation. It denies the caste system and any social practices connected to the caste system. It is dualistic, two things. The gods don't really matter. And karma is material. This is very interesting because this is something that gets into Hinduism. Karma, the cosmic law of cause and effect, is something that is physical and it is brought on by harm or violent action. So the physical things in the world have a soul, a jiva. And when I do something like that, I harm the jivas in this table and I accumulate karma. And karma's heavy. It weighs you down to this world, and you want your soul to be liberated. So you have to work off your karma. And you work off your karma in this religion. Karma is different in this religion than Hinduism. And you have this material substance that you have to be freed from. Everything has matter and soul. So the way to be free of karma is by careful action and decreasing your accumulation of karma. And this is best done in the form of suffering. So and willing suffering. So people do harmful things to themselves to get rid of karma. There's a story I heard about these nuns. Oh yeah, there's monasteries and they abstain from a lot of worldly things. Asceticism, denial of worldly desires is a practice. these nuns pull out their hair one piece at a time as a form of suffering to get rid of karma. So willing suffering. Violent action is called himsa. And himsa is what brings about the karma, kind of karma that is heavy and holds you down. And you should practice ahimsa, which is no harm. This concept of ahimsa, no harm, gets brought into Hinduism. It's subsumed into Hinduism as a practice as well. So this is something that the Jains are really known for, no harm. And they're sometimes depicted as sweeping the ground before them with a peacock feather to avoid stepping on bugs, because that will get you bad karma. Anything you kill gets you bad karma. So they're, well, I'm not sure if they're vegetarians. If someone else kills it, they get the bad karma, you can eat it. They live off of alms to the poor. They live in poverty and they beg. And in Hinduism, if you give food to a beggar, you get good karma. So they live within this Hindu caste system. Jains are their own caste. So they marry within their own caste and they continue as part of Hindu society. And Hindu society supports them by giving them food so they don't accumulate karma. So that's one challenge. Jainism. And you could read about Jainism. Go read online. Look it up. Buddhism is the second internal challenge to Hinduism. And Buddhism is started by Gautama Siddhartha around 563. He lives between 563 and 483. He's almost a contemporary of Mahavira. So Gautama Siddhartha is the founder of Buddhism. He also was a former Kshatriya, second level, princely level of Buddhism. And he is going to accept reincarnation as a reality, denies caste. There is no caste. And this philosophy is not dualistic. It is atheistic, no God. It denies that there's a soul, ahimsa, anatman, sorry. Yeah, anatman, there's no soul, no self. It's non-metaphysical. So all this philosophy stuff in Hinduism is rejected by Buddhism. They're not going to do all this, what is ultimate reality, what is the self? They reject speculation and try to live a more practical life, the goal of which is to be free from suffering. And Buddhism rejects the Vedas. So it's born from Hinduism. It's a challenge to Hinduism. And this religion is a missionary religion. It's for everyone. So Buddhists go out and try to convert people to Buddhism. This is something Hinduism did not do. You had to be born into Hinduism. They would go and teach Buddhism to the lower classes, the lower castes, and the lower castes sometimes convert to Buddhism. This is going to be a challenge to Hinduism, right? Because one of the things that you can do as a Buddhist is leave home, renounce life early before you become part of society. And so Buddha left Hinduism at the age of 28. And this is when he should have been in the householder stage in Hinduism. And he is going to teach for about 40 years. And many people convert to Buddhism from Hinduism. And then Buddhism expands beyond India and becomes a world religion. That's why we're learning about it in world religions. All right, so I'm going to let you learn about Buddhism from the lectures that come after Hinduism. I have a whole unit on Buddhism. But Buddhists are monastic. They're also they begin as celibate, and we'll have to see what happens when Buddhists don't have children. And yeah, this is a challenge to Hinduism. Now, what about these external challenges? Maybe I should pause, and yeah, I'm going to pause and start another video continuing this one, the challenges that come from Islam and the West. And these are religions that you're also going to learn about. So I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I'm going to talk about what happens when Islam comes in contact with Hinduism. Ooh, interesting stuff. I will see you in the next recording.